You tune into the Sportscast with Brian, Craig, and Jeff. Give you all the sports news you need. We give you outspoken thoughts about all the headlines. We talk baseball, football, hockey, and more. No matter the topic, we cover it. Get ready for the show and keep it outspoken. Keep it outspoken. We keep it outspoken only on the Sportscast. Tune into the Sportscast with Brian, Craig, and Jeff. Give you all the sports news you need.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in to Watson's Playbook. Episode number 15 of Watson's Playbook here. We got a special edition. Got my good buddy Casey on the line. Say hello, Casey.
Hey, what's up?
He's a good friend of mine. He lives in Utah. He came down to Texas and then left. So still a little sad about that. But we have jumped on here today. We decided that it was important to jump on here and talk about the NBA boycott and getting into a little bit of the NBA situation as they started playoffs right now. Actually, I have the game on in the background. They started back doing the playoffs and all that good stuff. I'm going to kind of go into that and the different aspects of that. So first, I do want to start off this episode by saying that standing up, the NBA standing up for what they believe in is awesome of them. You know, to stand up and do this is great. And that's what anybody wants to do. You always want to believe that you'll have the balls, I guess, and backbone to stand up for what you believe in, no matter what happens, no matter the ridicule or the good that come of it. But I don't know how you feel about that, Casey. Do you have that kind of same thought about that?
Yeah, I have no problem with them having their beliefs and them standing up for what they think is right. And that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that in my mind. Right.
And then, I mean, you may, even if you don't agree with the protests, which some people do, some people don't, it's still pretty cool of them to do that and pretty ballsy, because they know. Well, I mean, we saw a couple of years ago with Colin Kaepernick in the NFL, and now it seems to be more accepted, I guess, in this time than it was then. So it's pretty ballsy for them to continue or to pick that back up. So, but the NBA, what was it, Wednesday night? We got the rumor that the Raptors and the Celtics were thinking about boycotting their game. But Wednesday, the Bucks decided that they weren't going to walk out on the court on Game 5 against the Orlando Magic, and they decided that they weren't going to play. They came out with a player statement. The Lakers decided to boycott later that night, and the NBA shut it down. So not only did you see that boycotting the NBA, you saw boycotting in Major League Baseball, where some teams refused to play, some players refused to play, and you saw it all across the map. You saw it in the soccer, you saw it in the NHL. So it's not only just an NFL issue anymore, an NBA issue. This has reached the Major League Baseball. This has reached everywhere. And I've never seen, I don't know if you've ever seen a protest in baseball, but a lot of times that doesn't happen in baseball. So that's pretty powerful that it was able to shut them down as well. But my question to you is, I'll let you answer this first, is what do you think they accomplished by doing this boycotting?
Well, I think they got people talking about it, good or bad. I think, you know, there's definitely a lot of both sides where people are pretty upset about it, and people applauding them. And so I think that's the main thing is people are talking about these issues. And I know certain people who may not know exactly what's going on, they may think or look up or investigate a little bit more into why these things are happening and why these players are so upset that they're not playing their game that they're so passionate about. And so I think that's the main thing is, it's starting conversations. And, but other than that, I don't really know how much more is accomplished. In my opinion, I think a lot of people are probably pretty upset about it because, as fans, you want to see your team play. I know I for sure was kind of bummed. I'm a Jazz fan. And so when they were saying they weren't going to play, I was kind of bummed because I really wanted to watch my team. Then I know a lot of people are upset because of the nature of it, because they have strong opinions about the shooting that they're protesting. And so, it's kind of a tough one because I do believe that real change isn't easy. And so I can see that the point that they're trying to make. The issue I think a lot of people have is what are they trying to accomplish? Like, what's their main goal with these protests? And I don't think it's very clear what they're trying to do.
Right. And that's something that we were talking about the other day is just what are they expecting to come out of this? What do they want from this? What's their plans to see actual change? Because you're right, them boycotting has just gotten the talks going again. And that's a part of it. That's part of it is getting more information, having people look up information, educating themselves, and whether you feel like there's an issue or not, whatever side of the fence you sit on. This time and age, though, it's kind of hard to have your own opinion on it, but that being said, they did get the talks going again. The talks have been going on for a while, especially since George Floyd. But I think we've kind of forgotten a little bit about it until the recent incident with Jacob Blake. And no matter what side of the fence you sit on with that situation, they're getting that conversation started again. And the main thing is, and I talked about it in the last episode, is just have an open mind going into these things. I know it's tough time now in our country with Corona and racial injustice and all this craziness going on with that. But they definitely I was bummed too. I'm a Laker fan, as you know. I know you hate the Lakers with passion. They're Casey, yeah. but I was a little bummed, especially because Damian Lillard was supposed to miss the game, and I was like, we should win easily then. And then this gives them another couple days of rest. But me and you kind of scratched our heads at this, and this is a big talking point on the sports talk radio is why did they come back so soon? Like, why, if it was such a powerful message or if it was such a powerful thing and they wanted to make ultimate change, to me, I think you would just leave. You would end your sport in the play, especially in the playoffs, where the owners are making quite a bit of money in the playoffs in the NBA, and you would leave to go actually do physical change. And there's some people that were leading some peaceful protests before the bubble started, and some players that didn't want to come to the bubble because they feel like they could do more there. I think the NBA gives them a bigger platform to really give out their message. And the NBA has done a good job at giving their platform. So coming back so soon, it was only 2 or 3 days for the NBA. The WNBA I think started up last night, and then some baseball teams continue to play. And so I just think, especially for the NBA, because they're kind of ones that set this domino in effect here with the boycotting, I think coming back this early is a little strange, and people were kind of making fun of it and just kind of not understanding if this is something that meant so much to you, that why you're back so soon, or why you're back at all.
Well, my biggest thought is, and I don't know if this is discussed, but maybe they realize that they have more of a impact when they're playing. If they would have just stopped everything right when they did and not come back, then maybe they, maybe it's a talking point for a couple days to a week. But it goes away, something else comes up, and they're kind of in the fourth, and they're kind of an afterthought. And so my thought is they either thought that, where, they have more influence because they're playing, where they can every single game, which is, every day now, where they can make a stand and people will be watching because they want to watch their team play. And so that's kind of my thought. My other thought is maybe they realized that they wouldn't get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a huge factor. People want to say that money isn't that big of a deal, but it is. If I were to, have something, and even if I believed in it strongly, but someone said, if you do this, you're not going to get paid for this long, or, whatever, then I don't know if I would do it. Money's, whether you like it or not, is very important in today's day and age. And so maybe they realize that those paychecks wouldn't be getting cut. Those are my two thoughts. I don't know. It'd be nice to kind of be a fly on the wall and see exactly what went down. I did see some reports that, LeBron wasn't really acting the way that some of the players were wanting, that he actually ended up leaving early. Did you see that report?
Yeah, I saw some reports that said he stormed out of a meeting. I heard he was mad because Giannis decided to do this without talking to anybody else about it. And, it's hard for me because LeBron's a Laker. All right. And I'm a Laker fan. I used to be a big LeBron fan, and there's some stuff, how he's acting and doing that. It's hard for me to swallow. But they said that turned him off because he thought that he was acting like he was above everyone else. And I don't know. I wasn't in the meeting, and what am I trying to say? I was not there, so I can't say for much, but there's a lot of people that were turned off by LeBron James because of it. And he was acting like he was more important, but I don't know. And they if it was up for I believe they had a vote, and the Lakers and Clippers were the only ones that said they wanted to cancel and leave. But other players wanted to be there. I don't know if they felt that, if LeBron felt it was better for them to just leave and they could help out better that way. Some of them feel that way. But I believe, like you said, that this is the biggest stage they got, right? This is what's going to get their message out, I believe, instead of doing things, because players do things all the time on the streets, or they go to the hospital and they do things, and a lot of people don't know about it. So here you have a platform. I think if the players really want, they should start talking about this during interviews. They should stop talking about basketball and talk about the change they want to see and talk about the issues. And I think that's a big way that they can help with the change. And I don't know what was said, and I would love to be a fly on the wall, though, like you said, and be in that meeting. But basically LeBron James is acting a little selfish, but he also knows the pull that he has, I think. So he's got to play that balance of, of trying to know his weight, because I believe if he really wanted to, he could end it all. He could say, I'm not playing, we're not playing. And I believe he could end this season if he wanted to. But I think he was frustrated. Reports was he was frustrated that Giannis didn't talk to anybody else before doing this. So, which I don't think Giannis has to talk to anybody before deciding to do this and start this boycott. And
that's dumb. Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. And I used to be a big LeBron fan too, until just recently when he became a Laker, mainly. But also just the whole China stuff with Hong Kong and
we're gonna get into that in a little bit here. We're gonna get that. So let's save that China talk for a little bit later. But just I don't know. I think we're seeing a little bit of his true colors, and I don't know. I mean, if other players like Giannis, who's a great player and becoming one of the faces of the league, I think that's great. LeBron should be happy for him, and so if that's true, then I think that's a really bad look for LeBron. Yeah, you think he would want more superstars, especially like Giannis, to be on his side, and ultimately they're working towards the same goal. So it's a really bad look for LeBron James. And I fight with my love and hate for LeBron because he does do a lot. Like he has his own school for underprivileged kids, and he does a lot with his money and stuff like that. But the stuff he says sometimes and still how he acts it's not right. And so it's that love-hate relationship, I think, that I struggle with. But after actually we were talking about, why did they come back so early? Well, news broke. The reason why they're back and the reason why they're playing the playoffs and continue to play basketball is they were able to reach an agreement. The NBA and the NBA Players Association were able to reach an agreement, and these are the stipulations that the players wanted. I suppose, I guess their plan. Or sorry, Casey's outside, so got some outside noise in there. Dog barking. We apologize for that. You'll probably hear the kids crying and stuff. So, but life happens here on the Watson's Playbook. But so these are the three things they wanted. They wanted to establish a social justice coalition featuring reps from players, coaches, and government. Number two, they wanted to make it where team arenas were going to become voting locations this coming November. And then the number three was more advertising spots in the playoffs to promote the election and promote and engage in their BLM movement and everything like that. So if that happens, if that's what they wanted to play, then I guess they've got something that they think is very valuable from this. And voting is very important, whether which side of the fence you sit on. We're not a politics show here on the Watson's Playbook, but no matter if you're voting Republican, Democrat, if this is probably one of the biggest voting coming up that you could get in, that you could go do. So I've never voted in my life, Casey. I don't know about you, but I am going to vote this coming up November. And so maybe I can go into the Dallas Maverick Stadium and vote if they're going to make stadiums. But I think it's pretty cool, though, the stadium wise, to get that. And they're going to get more advertisements for these playoff spots. Why you think that the NBA would have more viewers going on right now? But that was their goal that they got out of this. So if they got that accomplished with the boycott, to be able to sit down and have a discussion with the NBA and between the NBA and the Players Association, I guess they've got something from boycotting. So, and I know the other night when they did boycott, Giannis was on the phone with some government there in Wisconsin. So I don't know what became of that. Maybe he talked into just some of their points that they wanted to talk about or something to work with them. So, I guess that's going to be an accomplishment from the boycott. But I guess time will tell and see. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on what they're asking? I guess the commitment they've made between each other.
My thought is, couldn't they have already gotten all of those before without a boycott? Because honestly, the NBA will basically do whatever these guys want. I mean, within certain bounds. So it's like, if they really wanted more commercials, did they really need to boycott to get that? Like, they could have easily just been like, hey, this is something that's important to us. We feel like we should have more of a platform is basically what they want. And so, I mean, I guess the voting centers in the arenas is maybe something different, but also I don't know that you really needed to boycott games to get that. Everything on that list could have been accomplished, I think, without a boycott. So it's good that they have some concrete stuff that they're coming out with, but to me, was the boycott really necessary to get that?
Right. And maybe they felt like they have more leverage right now in the playoffs, because if they were able to walk out on the playoffs right now, that would be huge. The NBA does not want that to happen. So maybe they felt like this is the leverage we need to get this demands met. But I agree with you. I think that's something that they could have done afterwards. or even during this time off, or during their time off and not playing actual games, they could have set something up. The NBA is the biggest sport that listens to their athletes. They give them the most power. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Boycotting, I don't know, other than like we talked about a little earlier here, is other than starting that talk back up again, they probably could have done that without a boycott. And I think the biggest thing coming out of that is not going to be the advertising, it's going to be the voting centers, which there's a lot of voting centers, but if you can open up complete stadiums to do that, that's pretty cool. I want to talk about going into kind of leading into the NBA ratings, because one of the things was they were going to have more playoff or more advertisements in the playoffs and more opportunity, I guess, to advertise to get their movement going more, I guess, and advertise it as people have to watch those advertisements, right? So, but I did a podcast, and I'll admit that I was wrong. I did a podcast. It was episode number 12, I believe, talking about how this support would hurt or help certain sports. And I thought the NBA, it would help because most of the league, I think 80% of the NBA is black. I believe a lot of their fans are leaning more towards being black. But I was wrong. I was wrong in that. And I'll admit that I was wrong. The ratings are actually down 20% because of all this protesting. That's a big number, Casey. That's a huge number. And I've actually learned that they have been losing fans here for a while. And they need to bring in those fans, to bring in the money. So they were down 15-20% from last year. And we're talking right now in the playoffs. So playoffs is usually the biggest thing. And I guess you could say maybe the bubble's turning some people off because it looks a little weird, no fans in the stands, but you can't help but to think with all this protesting that is actually hurting their sport and viewerships.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost, I don't know if you remember that one Gillette commercial where it's talking about, how to be like a man, and basically is saying don't be misogynistic, and it's like, yeah, like I think the majority of people that see that would be like, yeah, we shouldn't be misogynistic. But if there's a guy out there that's misogynistic, he's not going to look at that and be like, you know what, that's right, I need to stop doing that. Yes. I think it's kind of the same with this. Like, a lot of people don't want stuff shoved down their throats. And so if they're going to watch a basketball game and they're seeing all this stuff, I think the person that is going to disagree with a lot of their message or the way that they portray their message isn't going to change because of what they're doing. It's more going to turn them off. And so that's what I think.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And that's, a lot of people have the problem with the politics in sports. And I can see that. Like sports is supposed to be a getaway, right? You have a crazy day at work, but you're looking forward to that playoff game. You're looking forward to going to see the Rangers play some horrible baseball, or the Jazz the Jazz win the playoff game. It looks like they're going to beat the Denver Nuggets and go on to the next round. But so when you turn on TV and you see people kneeling for the anthem, and you see BLM on the thing, and you see all this stuff on the back of the NBA jerseys, you just can't get away from it sometimes. And I've explained to people before, I watch sports because of the love of the game, right? I don't watch it for political opinion. It doesn't really bug me, but it is turning off some of their viewers. And even when they come out and they hate on Trump or whatever, they do a lot of that. It's stupid because you are alienating your viewers. You're alienating it to people that like Trump, or people that don't want to see your protests because they don't want to see that. They want to get away from it. So that's a big problem that they're facing. And I think a big problem that sports will face. And I guess we'll see what happens in the NFL this year, because we've already heard talks about them looking to boycott games in the NFL. And you know how big games matter in the NFL, right? The NFL is domination upon any other sport and a lot of different things, and how important the games are, because there's only 16 games. So to boycott one of those and to lose out, because I don't know how you're going to make it up. I guess you could add it on to the end. It's still up in the air. It's going to be tough. When Colin Kaepernick did this 4 years ago, when he kneeled for the anthem, it was they did lose ratings. They lost people that watch football. Not enough to really impact them too much, but it did. So even in NFL, where it's watched more than anything else, they got hurt by it. And what's funny to me is, in a time where we saw sports shut down because of the coronavirus, the pandemic, where sports shut down and we didn't get anything. What's funny to me is, you would think when they started sports back up, basketball, Major League Baseball, NASCAR is the first one to start back up, I believe. You would think they would have the biggest viewers they've ever had in their life, because we missed sports for 4-5 months. But that simply wasn't true. Now, it did happen in baseball. It was the biggest opening day they've had in years, but the numbers have plummeted since. The numbers have been down, like I said, 20% in the NBA. And that is due, whether you believe it whether you believe the process or what side of the fence you're on, it's because they're protesting. And you could there's people out there, Casey, I'm sure, that agree with the protests, but they just don't want to turn on the TV and see it on their sports channels.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you that sports are a really good escape in life. And so when, you have a whole lot of junk mixed in with it, I shouldn't say junk, but just stuff that goes along with something that you just, you expect one thing and then you get a whole bunch of other stuff. And so it definitely is turning off a lot of people. I kind of think of it, if you have a glass and you think it's water, but it ends up being orange juice. It's like, not that orange juice is bad. You just were expecting water. Yeah.
Right.
So I think a lot of people are going to watch sports and they're getting politics and they're just turning them off. And neither are bad. Protests aren't bad. Sports aren't bad. It's just people are expecting one thing. And so I think it definitely is a turnoff in a lot of ways.
Right. And so just thinking about all the money that the NBA will be losing, because even though they're losing money, the NBA is very profitable. They're not going to go bankrupt. The NFL and Major League, they're not going to go bankrupt. But thinking about it that way, if they're losing viewers, which means they're losing money, they're losing interest. I got the question of, how long will the NFL or the NBA be able to lose profit, and how long will they allow this to continue before they lose enough profit where they're going, okay, guys, we've got to stop this. They have easily, like I talked about earlier, the NBA has given their players the biggest platform, the biggest power they ever have. I don't think any other sport, they have as much power as the NBA and the players to speak out and do what they want and be able to do these things, where also the owners are listening to what they want. They have a lot of pull, they have a lot of power. And I'm just wondering where we'll ever get to that point where the NBA says, all right, guys, we've got to kind of slow down on this, because money talks. And like you said earlier, money's not everything, but money's very important. And there's a bottom line that they're going to have to meet. And is this going to take them under that bottom line? I don't know. But that's an interesting aspect that could come into play with this. And I'm wondering if they would ever sit down and tell the players, we can't do this anymore. And the players will probably fight back, because they've given them that power. And the players say, they're probably going to be like, I don't care about the money. This is more important than that, which, obviously in the long run in life, it is more important than sports. But sports is a getaway. Sports is something that millions and millions and millions of people watch. So that's an interesting aspect of that. I don't know if you can see that coming to a point, and how long this is going to go on. I guess we don't know, but this change won't be fast. This change doesn't go fast, happen fast most of the time anyways. And this is something that's going to take years to change.
Yeah, my opinion is that eventually it'll just become normal. Like I think at some point sports will just be so integrated with politics and just people standing up for what they believe in, that it's just going to become a normal thing. And, that may not be good for certain people, but I think a lot of people, especially people that are going to just start watching, like I have 2 sons, one's 2 and one's just turned 1. And like, they're going to grow up just kind of used to that. So for them, I think it's just going to be normal. So that's my opinion. It's just going to become so ingrained and integrated with sports that it's just going to be normal for the future. And I think at that point, ratings will start to go back up. And I think there'll be a point too where it's just like, there's only so much talking you can do about it, and you just got to play. And so I think at that point, things will start to go back to normal.
Right. And I didn't even think about that point, but I think that is a great point you made. And I think that's true that's going to happen. We probably will see that. And I was talking about the other day when I was talking about sports, I did a podcast about how these protests might help or hurt sports. And I was thinking that it might help baseball. Did I say baseball? Yeah, it might help baseball because we was talking about how they really, baseball, they're very horrible at advertising their players and marketing their best baseball players, and they don't the unwritten rules of baseball don't allow their baseball players to really have a personality and do all these things. But I thought maybe since they started to allow these players to get in on the protest, I thought the younger generation might think that was pretty cool and maybe start watching baseball just because of that fact. But that's a very interesting point that you bring up. I didn't even think about it that way, but you're probably right. And this younger generation who's more likely to go out and do these protests, whether it's peaceful or violent. We've seen a lot of violent protests, which I don't agree with, but we've actually, I don't know if you've seen any video of the basketball players doing any. Did you see the videos of the basketball players out there protesting?
I saw it back in the day. Is that what you mean with the George Floyd protests?
Yeah. With the George Floyd, they couldn't do it with this one because the bubble, already started. And I'm all for it. If you have something to stand up for and you want to peacefully, I really want to say that peacefully protest. I'm all for that. And just as long as it doesn't get violent, and I don't think violence solves much of anything, but certain point there's going to have to be some action done before, boycotting is just not going to get it done. Just talking about it's not going to get it done. But there's some people here going into the next topic here. Doesn't this seem a little hypocritical of the NBA to preach about equality and human rights and everything like that when the NBA is in bed with China? The NBA is in bed with China, and China doesn't care about human rights. And I don't know if you heard the story the other day, but there was a story about how the NBA has camps over there for basketball players, and they were going to let China run it, right? They were going to let China coach the players how to, teach them how to play basketball and everything. But it turns out these coaches were actually abusing the kids. They were beating these kids. And that was a story. It popped up in the news for a little bit. It got swept under the rug. It looked really bad. One of these basketball camps was actually in one of the concentration camps, I believe, that the Chinese have people over there. I don't want to get too politics, but it seems like a little hypocritical. And the NBA, someone told LeBron just to shut up and dribble, and he came back with, he came back and argued against that. But the China said shut up and dribble, and the NBA listened.
Yeah, it's because of the money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I was getting at before with LeBron is, to me, human rights isn't just how it fits. It should be everything. And so the fact that he's making millions in China and won't speak out against the atrocities that are going on over there kind of just speaks volumes, I think. To me,
it hurts his bottom line.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're going to speak out on these other things, and, you can't really pick and choose, these are terrible things that are happening to these people that you're benefiting from. It's like that. To me, that seems like a no-brainer for him to call out. You know, if it really were that you cared for these people and these issues, then you wouldn't take the money from them. And so, I don't know, that's a hard one for me to get by, just because it's, you know, it's something that's so in our face that it seems obvious, but I don't know. It's hard to pick and choose when it comes to human rights, in my opinion.
Right. It seems like it's more of human rights for only the people here, not really around the world. You can't pick and choose when it comes to human rights. Everyone should be treated equally. And something else that happened this last week was I'm gonna have to edit this part because Luka Doncic from the Mavericks got called a B-ass white boy by Montrezl Harrell, and nothing was done. Right? Nothing was done of it. They didn't punish him. They didn't fine him. They didn't spin him. But I guarantee you, if Luka called Montrezl Harrell, who is an African American, a B-ass black boy, it'd be a huge story. And then Luka would be able to lace a racist, and it would be a huge story. And I don't really care that he called him that, because it's, to me, it is just, it's, people will talk trash all the time. And in the NBA, you could probably picture there's a lot of vulgar things there. But it does look pretty racist, in my opinion, when you use white boy and the derogatory cuss words at him. It's pretty bad. So I don't know how you can preach equality, and we got to treat everyone equal when that wasn't even handled correctly on their own courts, in my opinion. But
it's very much, well, and I guess that kind of goes towards their different history. I agree that it should be that everyone just treats each other with kindness and equally. But I guess the connotation is slightly different, since, white people really weren't in the same position that they were. And so in that regard, I can kind of understand.
Like, I understand in that regard, definitely, because the history is different. But
definitely treat people with respect. And yeah, I mean, I guess I understand that there's trash talk that goes on, but why does it have to be like that?
Yeah. If he left the race out of it, I think it would have been a big, it wouldn't have been anything. And Luka Doncic didn't think anything of it. But to me, if you're such out here preaching that everyone's equal, you treat everyone equal, then I think it doesn't matter what color of skin they are. If someone uses a racial name and a white boy, I guess is not really it's not a bad thing. But when you add two bad words in front of it, it does come off as bad. So I think it would have been a good message for them to step up and say, hey, we're not going to take this from either side, either race or whatever color skin. And we are going, I don't think he should have been suspended, but a little fine, a little slap on the wrist to let them know that this isn't going to be tolerated from either side. I thought it could have been a pretty good message for them to spread.
I honestly think that if they would have done that, it would have gotten them some brownie points with their viewership that they've been neglecting. I don't know necessarily if what he did was all that bad, but I think the people that they've been kind of ostracizing that have dropped their viewership, I think it would have gone a long way with them. And they would have either tuned back in or at least sparked some of their interest. And I don't know. I think there's certain people that maybe would have seen that if they would have fined him and been like, you know what, maybe there's something that's changing. Because I think a lot of what they see is just it's the same old, and that they're just going to keep to the status quo and not change anything, at least worthwhile, in their opinion. And so I don't know. I think it would have gone a long way, but it is what it is.
Right. I think you're correct on that it could have maybe helped bring some viewerships back. And then I think, there's going to be a point in sports, in any sport, where they're losing money because of whatever, whether it be protesting or whatever. There's going to come a point where they've got to say, hey guys, we're losing too much money, and we're going to see what happens to NFL this year as players might kneel for the anthem and might boycott. It's just a lot of stuff up in the air. And I think what's, for some people, like talked about, is they just want to see sports. That's it. And it's this, all this talk is distracting, I guess, for them. And, I was on Facebook the other day and on a rabbit hole of Facebook talking about different things. And I'm like, maybe, some people don't want to see this in their sports, the politics of sports, because just like what happened the other day, they boycotted. There was not games. If you were looking forward to your playoff game at night, it took that away. And I think it's a big reason too, is why they don't want to see it in the sport. And another big issue real quick we'll get into before we let you go here is, and I think a lot of people believe this and feel this way, I've seen it all over the place, is it's hard for me to take a view from a athlete because they are rich, make a lot of money, and they don't live quite in the same aspect as we do. So some people feel that's they don't want to be preached to by privileged people who make millions and live in mansions and don't really know what it's like to live in the down and being poor or whatever, working paycheck to paycheck, as more than most America is. So it's hard for us to really sit here and listen to them preach to us about equality and life like that. And so I think that's a big thing too, is they just don't want to hear from them because they think it's just like when the celebrities came out when the pandemic hit and said, we're all in this together, as they sit in their mansion on 5 acres of land with tennis courts, with basketball courts. And we're like, I'm in a one bed, I'm stuck in an apartment. Don't know if I'm going to eat tomorrow because the stores everything's taken off the shelves and you can't find toilet paper. So it's a little misguided view there.
Well, that's kind of the impression that I got when LeBron was talking about the arrest of Jacob Blake, and he was saying, maybe they should have just done this or this. And it's like, I mean, maybe you're right, but you also have not been in your shoes and tried to arrest somebody. It's like, you really can't relate to police officers at all. And so, it's just, I don't know. I think oftentimes the celebrities and especially sports athletes kind of do the thinking for a lot of people, which is good and bad. So I think we take these people's word for it, and maybe we shouldn't, because LeBron doesn't know what it's like to be a police officer.
Right. Well, I think that's another thing that's so. I think everyone does. A lot of people do that. Is, oh, well, they should have done this, or they should have done that, or they should have done this, and they don't have the mindset of how cops are trained. They don't know how quickly cops have to react to things. So yeah, it goes both ways, and that's I could get into a whole nother subject on that part of it.
A big rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a big rabbit hole, and we could get into the Jacob Blake shooting and what went wrong and what should have happened, but I don't know. I think that is a rabbit hole we shouldn't go down on the podcast because we don't want to seem like anyways, but as I sit here, dude, J.R. Smith's an idiot, dude. They just passed it into J.R. Smith with 1 second on the clock. He's standing 2 feet out of bounds and he throws up a three. Like, dude, you're 2 feet out of bounds. Anyways, the Laker game's on. But I think we're about to wrap this up. I don't know if you have any final thoughts about this. You can go ahead and add those in here if you'd like.
Well, I guess my last one is just, honestly, there's really only one opinion that you can have, at least publicly, and still be in the right or not ostracized. Like Brian Urlacher just came out and said some stuff, and he got pretty slammed by a lot of people. And it's pretty much you agree with them or you're wrong. And so a lot of these issues that are being brought up, it's like there's really no discussion. And I think that's a big problem, is really there's not a whole lot of conversation that's going on. And I think that's the biggest thing that people need, is they need to be understood, and then they need to be heard, and then they need to get their opinion out and not feel like they're just going to get trashed for it. And so I think that's a big problem with what we have in society on both sides, right and left, is people really don't listen, and they just kind of write you off if you say one thing. And there's really no forgiveness. And so I think that's the biggest thing that needs to change, is just being able to have conversations about these things and being open-minded and being able to listen and then respect that person. And so it's a tall task. I don't think that's ever going to change, but if it could, I think the world would be a lot better place. And I think the athletes are in a really good spot where they can be that sort of thing. They can be the person that listens and understands, and then helps people come along. And I think that's going to be the biggest change for a lot of the people that are kind of upset about the boycotts and the protests that they're doing. Is just maybe they need to be heard. And so I don't know how that has to happen, but I think it can start by just being respectful and that's
exactly
kind of my 2 cents.
You're exactly right. It's hard to have another opinion, because automatically if you have a different opinion, you're called a bigot or a racist or whatever. And I don't really, I'm no racist at all. And I hope you can concur to that, but I don't feel, I'm going to say this, it's going to be very bold here, Casey. I don't feel like Jacob Blake shooting is the one to protest on. And that's hard to say, because people are going to listen to this and go, oh, this guy's a racist. No, I'm not. You got to look at the facts of the situation. George Floyd, I get it. I'm not, protest that. Definitely ridiculous. But the Jacob Blake shooting was not, it's not all one-sided. And I think we need to sit down and have these discussions. And at the end of the day, we'll still be able to respect each other. I think that's a big thing, and not all, and that's what it is. It's having an open mind and open heart. And that's what I said last week at the end of my show. I hope you guys have an open mind, because I'm very open-minded. I wish everyone was. This world, like you said, would be a way better place if people were open-minded, but they're not, and they shut down, and they want to, it's my opinion or you're wrong. And in this world now, it's, if you don't agree with me, then I hate you type thing. And that shouldn't be the way it is. And so I hope we can change that, sit down and have these conversations with someone of a different color than you, and be able to see your perspective of it, and be able to learn from it, and maybe think about ways you can change, and ways that you can help out the Black community, and vice versa, and get back to being a nation where we're more united than divided. And I have more deep feelings into this subject, but I'm going to leave that off this podcast show. But I just want to hope we're going to end this show here, episode number 15 of Watson's Playbook. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I hope you guys can go out there and have those conversations with people and be able to learn, have an open mind, like we talked about. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out at watsonsplaybook at gmail.com and let us know how you feel about anything, about sports, about life. You want a shoulder to lean on, I'm here for you guys. So I appreciate you guys listening to this. I hope you guys have a good week. We're going to throw this podcast out hopefully tomorrow or Monday. And hope you guys come and listen. It's a special edition here. And we're talking about something where this is, we're talking about something other than actual basketball games and actual sports. It's more of the political part of it. But it's just something I think we had to come on and talk about. I want to thank you, Casey, for jumping on and joining me here tonight.
Thanks for having me, man. Let's do it again.
Definitely will. We'll keep it up, brother.